Hello, everybody. My name is Patrick, and I'm an alcoholic. My sobriety date is August 11th in 2011, so just under 2 years. I'm very blessed for everything I have, and I really don't know where the miracle begins and ends with AA, because it's my life was going down real fast there at the end. It took 25 years of drinking, but it was going down the tubes at the end. So I'm really amazed that how I was able to, with God's help and everybody else, turn it around. It really is a miracle, because it to that point, everything I did in AA, it was inconsistent with my behavior previously. So, and before, I never listened, never took anything seriously in my life. Work, school, golf even. I played golf all the time. I didn't even take that too seriously. And everything, and the results were always kind of half-assed too. So, but this is something I've actually taken seriously, and I've worked hard, and I've chosen to listen to everybody that came before me and that comes in, and it's an important part of my sobriety is to listen and believe the stories, good and bad, and because my bottom was kind of high, as as I've listened to stories. I still have a lot to lose, and still had a lot to lose when I began to turn it around. So I have to be very active in listening and staying green, as everyone says. I grew up in New York on Long Island. Had a loving family, loving extended family. My father never drank, and my father really, he actually, looking back now, he actually had serenity. I didn't know it at the time, but his manner and way of handling things and acceptance with everything in life, he just happened to have it. Like someone who's been sober for 30 years. It's really amazing. He went through a long life, very loved and accepted me and my brothers for what all of our shortcomings, and wanted the best for us. And looking back, and it's part of an inspiration of as I move forward, of thinking about how he handled things throughout life. So alcohol was part of in my upbringing. It was part of the celebrations in the family. It was normal to have it around. My mother drank on occasion, never abused alcohol or anything, but alcoholism was prevalent in my family. You don't have to go far at a family reunion and you see people in various phases of alcoholism, whether it's active, in recovery, or whatnot, or or like my case, I think I was an alcoholic, and there was not a damn thing anybody could do with it. It was my fate, and I was fortunate enough to survive everything I went through to make it to AA. I don't think it's nobody's fault. Any circumstances couldn't have been better. The only thing, if I never had a sip of booze, then maybe I wouldn't have. But that didn't happen. So I was really on the road, no matter what circumstances in my life would happen. So I also had, when I was young, I had an exposure to Alcoholics Anonymous by virtue of having certain family members been in the program, some successful, some not. And I remember at an age, thinking that's awful. You know, oh, how this uncle, you know, just, you know, they're trying to get him to stop drinking, and he doesn't seem to care and do anything about it. But I didn't know at the time what was, or how difficult, or what a hold alcohol had on him. And it was even harder to understand because I would see someone successful in the program. And I would say, oh, well, you see, damn right. He you know, got his act together. Uncle Jack got his act together. You know, he saw his family. It was hurting his family. But it's, knowing now, it's not that simple. But in any event, it was important that I was exposed, because eventually, this is where I wound up. So, and having had that exposure in the beginning, my parents sent me to AA as a teenager, because, you know, my brothers smoking pot, me drinking beer in high school, and you know, our intentions were good, but I went there with the attitude, whoa, I am just a casual observer. I'm going to be polite. You know, this is important for other people, and it's a big part of their lives. But what I got out of it was, well, I don't want to be like that, so I got to kind of reel in this behavior and kind of keep it between the ditches, because I like drinking as, you know, as a young person and all throughout my life, you know, up until I sobered up. Well, the end, I really didn't like it. It wasn't any fun. But I made that distinction that I was just there. And so I was polite to everybody and did it, and I think I got, eventually, like, the seed was planted. So it was there, and I had some sort of positive perception of AA. And as the years go, you know, 15 years from my first exposure, I think I probably had a feeling I was going to wind up here as I was going down, but still trying to hold on. So you know, as I grew up, me and my brothers and all friends drank. For me, it was I always felt like a misfit from a very young age, and when I was in high school and started drinking, it was a real relief. I felt like I belonged, and I felt comfortable in my skin for the first time in my life. And little did I know that it wouldn't work forever, because it really, I was drinking. I had some sort of alcoholic drinking behaviors from early on. Where it was, I never in my life said, oh, I'm going to go out and get drunk tonight. Never really said that. Maybe a handful of times in 25 years. But almost all the time, I wound up getting drunk. I just wanted to go and have a few beers at the bar. And, if I go to a bar at 5 o'clock, I'll just stop by, have a few beers. No, I was there till 9, 10 o'clock. And, it's just, because I had no control. I couldn't stop. And this is pretty early on. I really couldn't stop. And it's amazing. I was able to get through high school. I guess I'm reasonably bright, because I didn't work hard. Got through high school, went through college, pretty much shit-faced, and managed to get through it. And I never even liked school. It's strange. I like the social aspect of it, but that was the only, booze was the only thing that made me feel okay with myself at any time. So kind of early on, it was a crutch for me. And so, went on, had trouble with the law as a young adult, got in a mess, went to jail. And I said to myself, well, I can't do that again. you know. So again, it kind of reeled in my behavior and I wanted to keep drinking, so just I chilled out, didn't show my ass or anything when I was drinking. I made sure I stayed out of trouble. Made sure all the headlights in my car and taillights, everything working. I spent 25 years of drinking and driving and never got caught. And that was, but I couldn't stop myself. I mean, I was drinking all the time, so almost all the time. So if I wanted to drive and work and get around with life, I had to be drink and drive. I'm not proud of it, but it's part of my story. I mean, even at the end, I had to, if I had to take my children to the park, I would grab a road pop, you know, out of the garage refrigerator and put the kids in the car and go to the park. You know, my wife never knew about it because that's why I had the refrigerator in the garage. And you know, it's really, I look back, you know, it's horrible, and it could have cost me a lot. Could have cost me my kids. Could have cost me my you know, my driver's license and my whole family and everything. But you know, you can't. At that point, I couldn't stop myself. Well, really, throughout, there's very little I could do to, once I started drinking in any situation, to stop myself. But I wasn't entirely. I didn't fully realize that that was going on in my life. It's only now that I look back. Yeah, every time, you know, I could never just have a beer. Just never. I would say I would like to have one, but that concept, it just doesn't really add up with me. Can't just have one. So, you know, went through college, jobs, lot of dissatisfaction in my vocations over the year. Just generally frustrated my whole life, and booze was always, you know, and mostly beer. You know, I just pretty much drank Budweisers for 25 years, a little bit of whiskey, but it would always be my crutch. I would fall back on it because I always never felt comfortable with myself, with what I was doing, with where I was in life. I'm thinking, if I had this, if I had that, if these things would fall into place, it would be just, you know, then I wouldn't have to drink so much or whatever. I wouldn't need drinking, but that's not the case. It's entirely different. It's not. You can't make it circumstance based. You know, if you have this, I'll get sober or something, or stop drinking. And all throughout my, you know, as my drinking progressed, I kind of started to see, wow, you know, maybe I'm going to wind up in AA. And I remember reading an article in a golf magazine. Tom Weisskopf said, if you think you're an alcoholic, then you are. And that kind of shook, you know, got to me one time, because yeah, I thought I was an alcoholic. So I put that in the back of my head, but I'm still trying to. Well, I just have to change all that behavior, just not drink like a fool. But that went on for years and years. I didn't realize that that's what being an alcoholic is. You can't just drink like a normal person. So it's nice now that I fully appreciate that concept, because if you know, I was fighting that you know, the last 10 years of my drinking, that thinking I was going to reel it in and control it, and the truth is, most of my friends and everybody, they grew up, and you know that yeah, there was some along the way, some died, some suffering now that with alcoholism untreated, but the majority of my friends and everybody kind of grew up, and you know, then You know, they could take or leave it now, a drink. It's not like when we were young. But for me, it was from the get-go. It was important to me. It was, this is my answer to everything. This will make me feel good. So along the way, actually, and during my drinking years, I actually managed to meet a wonderful woman, and she turned out to be my wife. We've had two children, a boy and a girl, and you know, that's part of the miracle too. How did that fit in? And going along the way, if I wanted everything, if I got anything I wanted back then, I wouldn't have my wife. You know, years ago, wouldn't have my wife and kids right now. So it's strange how things work. But I met my wife actually in a bar of all places. It's not completely. I was always in bars, so that's how it works. But anyway, that was like I don't know, an anomaly in my last 10 years of drinking. That 10 years or so, whatever, that I managed to meet my wife, and that gave me. That was shortly after I read that article with Tom Weisskopf, and I think that kind of made me put all that thinking about stop drinking back in my head, because hey, things are going right. You know, I met a nice woman, and things were going well. So I kind of shelved the idea of stopping drinking for a little while. So went along. Then I wound up moving to the Sand Hills with her, and I got a good job at a plant through a friend of mine, and that was another thing. Things were going really well. It was a good job, and but continued to drink, really increasing the drinking, but no jackpots, you know. But just kind of working, making money, things going along, but staying out of trouble. So I was just fortunate in that regard. You know, just how did I not get stopped for a DUI? Doesn't make sense, but anyway, I lucked out. But as you know, I got a good job. I was working there a while, and then things started to not go so well there, and I got increasingly frustrated, and you know, the drinking even, you know, drinking increases, and your attitude gets lousy. You get bitter, frustrated that everything isn't going your way, and at that point, you know, and then I had gotten married and had two kids, and they're really wonderful children. My wife is wonderful. My wife never even gave me a hard time about drinking. One time, I sent my son in for a beer, and she was mad at me and sent him out with a club soda. And but other than that, it's nice. She never really bugged me, and I don't mean that as a compliment or to take away from her or anything. It's just strange, because I know I would not be receptive to nagging or anything like that. So I'm glad it kind of happened that way, because I know if nagging helped anybody, you know, my mother, from the first time I had a drink, my mother's been nagging, and if nagging worked, then you know, I would have stopped this 20 years ago. But in the end, kind of, I was getting just very frustrated, miserable, and I remember saying to my wife one time on a Sunday, "I got to go to bed now. It's getting late. I have a very lousy day ahead of me tomorrow. I mean, and that's where I was at. And the thing was, I was at the very end. I was drinking. Couldn't wait for 5 o'clock to stop at the store on the way home and have a Budweiser, and then go home and probably drink a dozen beers most nights, and then go to sleep and and have a lousy day the next day. And that's a brutal way to live. You're not going to be worth a damn at your job the next day, going in with a head full of booze like that. And it shows. I probably thought I was fooling people, but I was dragging around and all bloodshot eyes, I'm sure, and stunk like booze. So, and that's probably had something to do with my lack of success there. So it's kind of like a chicken or egg thing, and it just gets in a circle. You get frustrated, you do worse, you drink more, and it's out of your hands at that point. And I was really just going through life. Life was just happening, and I was just hanging on, still bringing a paycheck home, just happy. But it was really going down the tubes. And I'm lucky that my wife kind of tolerated me for that long. Just really in an awful mood, and I had a lot to be happy for. She really is a wonderful person, and I'm blessed with 2 wonderful, healthy children. That's really, why was I so miserable? And so I just carried on until eventually it showed in my work, and I wound up getting fired from this job. And I didn't necessarily like it at that point, but I had to make a living, and it was a pretty good living. And there was nothing like that in that industry that I'm in. I'm stuck in a house. So I really scared the hell out of myself at that point. Right before I got fired, I was sent home, and I had a feeling. I said to myself, I think I got a 50-50 chance I might get fired for what I did. And I could not do anything but try and drink it away. I remember those right then and there, just trying to distract myself or something. And I drank, with a vengeance, and couldn't kind of put that pain away or whatever, or get it out of my mind, and of what was facing me. And at that point, alcohol would always offer, even if it was late, it would always offer me some, I could always forget about everything if you drink enough. That point, it just didn't work. There was such an emptiness, and I really knew what was facing me and my family, and how the hell am I going to sort this out? So I go in, and after 2 days of, and I spent 48 hours just, on a bender. And then I show up at 9 o'clock to speak with someone in human resources, and try and be credible and beg for my job. Absurd now when you look at it. But whatever, I got canned, and it was. I was surprised and not surprised, but it still was awful. I felt about as low. That was like the bottom. And then driving home from them, I said, I got to do something different here. And what's weird is I didn't stop and get a drink on the way home. That's the first time in ages that I drove home. I just said to myself, I can't go home with and tell my wife that I just got fired, and our living, I jeopardized our family. I don't know. I guess that time I thought it was inappropriate, finally, to have liquor on your breath. So I just did, and I just came home and just told her, and she's upset. No, not kind of, just upset, not necessarily mad at me. It was just like a low point for me and my family. And I just, I'm sorting through things, making calls, and thinking, what are we going to do? What am I going to do? What are you going to do? And kind of trying to work out a problem or whatever. But, and I'm really just trying to keep the situation just low key, with not, her get too excited, and, I really wasn't in the mood for a lecture or anything for us. So just trying to be nice and keep the whole situation calm. Anyway, making calls, getting all unemployment and all the severance and all that stuff sorted out, thinking about what I'm going to do right then and there, that afternoon. And as the afternoon, I was really devastated. I really think I really did. No one in my family deserved this, what I had just put them through. So I just hung around during the day, and that day I made up my mind. I was looking on the AA schedule, and that my wife cooked dinner, and this was on a Friday. And there was an 8 o'clock meeting at the hospital over at First Health Hospital in Moore County. So we ate dinner, and 10 minutes before 8, I told my wife, I said, I think I'm going to quit drinking. I'm going to go to an AA meeting. And I did that. I didn't want her to talk me out of it at that point. I just didn't want to have a discussion or anything with it, because my mind was kind of made up. I almost thought that she was afraid she might say, well, you don't have to do that, and then, whatever, and because I probably could have been talked out of it. So anyway, I just went and went to the meeting, and I was already a little bit familiar from, like I told you, with AA, and it's just, at that point, it was just a matter of, hey, this is not, I'm not here being a casual observer and just being polite to everybody. No, I have to do this and make this, dive in and do it and make it part of my life. And that's a part of the miracle, too, because that's all, inconsistent with any of my actions or thinking to that point. To be positive, to do something positive for myself like that. My whole life up to that point has kind of been self-destructive. So it was really a miracle for me, to get that far along, and then just to stay with it. And so I went to the meeting, got acquainted with people, and got a big book and all, and came back and told my wife. She asked me, "Oh, how was it?" And I don't know. I didn't know if she was thinking I was just doing this just to cool things down at the house or whatever. But I was actually I was serious about it. I wasn't I was serious about it. And she was saying, well, she said, if you think it's important or you'd like to do that, then go ahead. Giving me her blessing or whatever, and she was encouraging me, and I was really, at that point, it was like, I went to the meeting. I think I got a white chip. I came home, and I felt like a fugitive that had been caught. I don't, because there was a sense of relief that came across me, that I didn't have to do, like I didn't have to do this anymore. Like all this is over with, you know? And that's what it was. It was exhausting at that point to keep up, you know, this lifestyle of you know, 42 years old at the time, you know, drink all day, try and make a living. It's impossible. So there was a great sense of relief, and I look back, and really, I'm very fortunate. At that moment, it's like the urge to drink was lifted from me. You know, I've heard people struggle with that. You know, they come in here, they're sitting on their hands and all, and I was very fortunate that I wasn't, at that point, I wasn't jonesing for a drink. I could, you know, I went to bed not wanting to drink. The next day I woke up and there was I don't know, there's a peacefulness inside of me, even though really, you know, I really just, everything was awful. My whole life was in shambles at that point. Unemployable, you know, unemployed and unemployable. In an industry that there's nothing like it around. Owning a house in this area, tied to that, and what the hell am I going to do? And there was some sort of calm about me, which was wonderful. It really was, looking back. And then, you know, I had gotten a meeting schedule, and the next day was a Saturday, and I came to a Saturday meeting here. You know, trying to, you know, say, hey, this is my thing, you know, go. And it was nice. I wasn't, the urge to drink had left me. It was a real miracle. I was very aware of not drinking, because I, you know, for the past 20 years, I'd always have a beer, just like a chain smoker has a cigarette going. I would always have a beer in my hand, walking around the house, you know, doing the yard work, doing this, that. So I was very aware of not drinking, but I wasn't dying for a drink right then and there. So maybe it made it a little more easier, but whatever. But I came to the Saturday meeting, and that sign, I didn't like that sign right away. Make gratitude your attitude, I remember. I said to myself, everybody's in here, whatever, speaker meeting, everybody's happy, you know. But I remember, they don't know what I've got to deal with right now. and if they knew, then they would understand why I don't have any gratitude. But, you know, I just started coming to the meetings and listening to people. All right, that's another thing that's inconsistent with my behavior and actions and thinking to that point. To listen to someone and believe them and not think I have a better way or anything. You know, I came in here and I started listening to, you know, someone who's been sober, you know, a year or two or whatever, several years. Started coming to the morning meeting right away, and did that every morning. From that point on, I went to 2 meetings a day for just about 6 months. And you know, I was unemployed, so I had time. But what I learned in those meetings was something that, you know, I came in kind of, I was really worried about, you know, my vocational problem and trying to figure out the mess I was in. But people, like people in the morning meeting said, you get a hold on this first. Don't just come here and try and solve all your problems, and you know, get yourself a job, get your wife your wife all happy or anything. They stress just do AA. You know, just don't drink and come to meetings. And that morning meeting was always great for me, and it's great for any newcomer, because anybody who's here 7:30 in the morning isn't clowning around about getting sober. They're here for a reason, and that's the truth. So I felt real comfortable real soon. Started going to the meeting right here. And I figured out the schedule's easy. There's one in the morning, one at noon, and one at night. So I didn't need a schedule. So I really hung around this building a lot. And, quickly I realized, that, to turn that, make gratitude my attitude, to start thinking about what I had. Instead of what I didn't have, and try and be helpful to others. Well, for one thing, I had a driver's license. So I made a point of driving by the halfway house on my way to the 7:30 meeting, getting acquainted with all those men, and I was just in the same situation, just new to AA and everything. Just I got a driver's license. So I helped them. I heard that was something you do in AA, and I got a lot out of it. And you get acquaintances. You see good people. You see bad people. You give each other strength, and that's important. And to this day is actually I still have some sort of link to the halfway house. I'm there every once in a while, seeing Eddie and some of the other guys, Eddie, Hugh. So there's always something you can do, even just like someone, if you think you can't. And I didn't know it at the time, but people in the morning meeting say, "Yeah, you're helping us," because they'd see me. I had a long face on or whatever, thinking I got all the problems in the world. But whatever. I needed to stop drinking, and it was fresh face for them to see, and I choose to believe everything like those old timers in the morning say. How tough it is if you go out. It's important for me to remember that, because there's a lot for me to lose, and I have to believe that. People have died for that sin already. So I just make it a point to believe it. When someone says, I went out and it took me a couple years to get back in, and then it was worse. I just need to believe that, and that's good enough for me. Because I will lose everything I have. Something that along the way, shortly after I started going to the meetings, and I'd go 2 a day, and I felt comfortable here, and being around here, and I felt like for the first time, without alcohol, I felt like I belonged somewhere, and that was nice. And shortly after I started, I said to myself, everything is going to be okay. And I believed it for the first time in my life. I could say that and really kind of believe it. Because before that, when I was still drinking, I was just hoping things would work out, or hoping circumstances would change and all that. But it's different when you're in AA. You work for things, you work the program, you pray, and you help others, and things start happening. What AA has given me is it's gotten me out of myself. I was trapped, and I was like felt like I needed to be in a straitjacket sometimes. The way I would think, and the fear and the insecurity and all that. It was awful. you know, I didn't know it at the time as it was going, because alcoholism is progressive, and I never knew anything else. But now, getting away from it, that's what drove me, and it was a. But now I can, you know, I got sober, worked the program, and I can do other things in my life. I can make a living for my family. I can take care of my family. You know, if I came in right away trying to get my whole life together and get all these things back that were in jeopardy or whatever, it wouldn't work. You have to get sober first, and this has to be, you have to do it, has to be the most important thing of your life, and it still is. I mean, I think about being sober, you know, about sobriety and AA all throughout the day, meditating and prayer, all throughout the day. It's just things pop into my head. It mostly takes the form of gratitude for the things I have, like my family, my kids, that I've survived to this point. A lot of people don't get it this far. That's the only difference. I just, you know, there's people had less of a run than me that are dead or in jail or whatever. I just happened to survive and get this far. Well, I appreciate it now, and I'm going to do everything I can, you know, to stay sober, because all those bad things are waiting for me if you don't work the program. I sincerely believe it. I believe, you know, all the horror stories. And there's just entirely too much at stake for me. I'm finally good with myself. I can live with myself. I'm not consumed by fear and insecurity, and you know, of the impending doom. There's just, it's awful now. You know, I just do AA, and everything's going to be all right. And I just, you know, care about my family, and you know, my kids, and being in AA, and I care about you all, because I couldn't have done it without everybody in here. And I'm very grateful. Thank you for letting me speak.